They can get vocal, very vocal sometimes.
All right, I'll turn up my sound so I can hear the voices more. How's that? Can you hear me better now?
Yep.
Okay, so let's start off the way we normally start. How do you feel and what do you expect to take away?
Today I'm feeling a bit tired, in all honesty, but I'm feeling excited about moving forward. Today I feel like we're actually, how do I feel? I feel like I'll get a better understanding of how we will be moving forward. So Gerry, how do you feel and what do you want to take away from today?
Yeah, look, I feel a little bit rushed this morning because I've got guys working outside the front of my house. However, that's okay. What I think I would like to take away today is, a little bit more understanding on these processes too that I'd like to implement into the business. That's what I'd like to sort of take away. Kelly, how do you feel this morning and what would you like to take away from today?
Well, I'm feeling a little bit rushed too because I just got off a call to Mexico, so and they're always challenging. So anyway, I'm now present and very keen to follow the process so that last week we went to the micro. Now we're going to go macro. Now we're going to go to the micro. Gerry, is that your logo?
Correct. Yes. Iconic Concrete.
Iconic Concrete.
Yes.
Wow. And why the logo the way it is?
I saw the color red and it sort of grabbed my attention.
Oh, well.
The actual.
So I'm doing okay then.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So I decided to base a couple of colors around my logo based on some red. Red was sort of, I noticed it more opposed to just having a black text or white text or whatever. So I decided.
And the shape represents a floor of some sort?
Well, no, it sort of represents a bit of like tiled pattern that we usually do. There's a pattern that we usually put in the concrete, and it's a similar sort of shaped tile, and then we have like a featured tile in the middle. So it sort of grabbed my eye, and I thought, oh yeah, we could sort of change these colours and put some colour into a context, into the text. Into the text of Iconic Concrete, and hopefully it'll stand out a bit better. And
green and black are your colours.
Red and black and grey are our colours because I've got all our business vehicles are the same colour. They're all got sign writing all over them, and yeah, that's our colours. I'll have to send you some photos of our new.
Yeah, well, I was just about to say, where are the photos?
Yes, we can flip it through. We actually just bought a new truck not so long ago, so we've got an electrician out the front of our house now, just fitting some cameras. Reverse cameras to the vehicles, and so we
okay, so it'd be good to have a look at all of that stuff. So I'm going to share my screen with you now, so we can get right into what I want to talk about today.
Sure.
And I'm creating a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint that I'm creating is the stuff that we talk about, so that as we go, you can ask for the PowerPoint whenever you want, and I will just give you the PowerPoint so that you understand fundamentally what I'm about. Okay, so it's recorded, but everything I do, I want to be able to just give it to you. It's not my intellectual property. The second that the three of us work together, it belongs to you guys. Does that make sense to you? So let me just say that anything that you want me to send to you, I send, and that's just it. If you have questions during the week, you can send me a text message, an email, whatever you want, and I'll respond to that. And I respond to that as part of this call. Okay. This is one call that I charge for. But that doesn't mean to say you can't ask me questions during the week or anything from a discussion we've had. That's all part of what we do. Is that okay?
Yep.
and I'm very good at answering, and I'm very quick at getting back.
Okay.
So there we go. Okay, so really, what I want you to understand, business is really quite simple. So I've got this drawing, and I draw it so that I have it in a picture in one place. If you're in business, you have to have a marketplace, you have to have a product, you have to have a customer, and you have to have money that exchanges, right? And so what's important to me, when I look at this, the way that we bring money back to us is sales that we make. So it's always that transactional of a sales made and it's coming back to us, right? But we always have to be in a marketplace. We always have products and everything else. Now, what I want you to understand from my perspective, the key to it is everything, everybody, every action, every interaction must sell, right? So that's why I ask about Gerry's shirt. The colors of Gerry's shirt, you know, the meaning of the logo, and he was very good. I like the name Iconic Concrete, right? Because you can build a brand around Iconic Concrete. You can build a brand around that thinking because it's very visual. Does that make sense to both of you? Yep. Okay, so the things that I really want to know in my marketplace, I want to know what the market segments are. I want to know the products that we're selling. I want to know the customers that we're targeting. And I want to know the value that we're going to add. I want to know the opportunities, and I want to know who I am in all of this. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
So we'll constantly be looking at that. We'll be constantly looking at what's our market segment? What are the products? What are the customers? Who are we targeting? And it's all inside the marketplace. So when you look at the boundary of the marketplace of a fixed location, so if we look at Blue Haven, right? If we look at that, it's got its boundaries. It's got the boundaries of people it's going to attract. How far are people going to travel for a facial or for skin advice? So Meghan, how far do you think they'll travel?
I have people that travel, only a few people that travel probably about 20 kilometers.
So people will travel up to 20 kilometers.
Yeah.
What causes them to travel the 20 kilometers?
The staff and the surroundings and the service that they've received.
I would say almost certainly relationship between, physical, human relationship between. It's not the travel.
Yeah.
Right? And so I notice you spend money on advertising and a significant amount of money on advertising. And so we got to say, what's that going to really bring to us? I also notice there's 25 different resellers in the immediate area of the same product you sell. Did you know that?
Not that many, but I knew that there are a few.
So if you go to their website, there's 25 resellers. So I Googled that and I just said, how many resellers of this product in this immediate area? And in that immediate area, you've got all of these people that are selling the same product. And the question is, how do we differentiate ourselves?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yes.
Then that's by knowing our value. What is it that we're going to offer? And then we look at our opportunities. And you know, we make note of that and say, how can we improve our opportunities? Now, from the other side, when I go to the other side, what are your costs of transaction? What does it cost us to do that transaction? What are the selling prices of our products? And that's one thing that I really noticed when I looked at the products that you have, and I noticed that it's $84, one of the tubes that I looked at. And my first thought was, I personally, but that's me, I'm a man, I wouldn't spend $84. But my next question is, how many households can afford $84? That's the next question I have. And then the next question I would have had was, how do I add value at $84? You understand my point? All of those questions come up to me. And then it's also, what are my margins? Not what's my profit, what's my margin? And so when I look at my margin is money left over. It's actually, it's not money left over. Let me say that again. That's so crazy. Profit's money left over. Margin is the difference between what you pay for it and what you sell it for. Profit is what's left over after all costs, not just expenses. And so we need to understand that. So even though when I asked the question about you, oh, you put in, you priced it up $1, I'm thinking to myself, well, even that doesn't explain how we're going to move this product. Yeah. We think that, oh, we'll differentiate by that, but I don't think so, because I noticed on their website, have you looked at their website?
Yes.
And have you looked at the threshold products and the pricing of those threshold products?
I think so, yes.
And have you looked at all the competitors?
Yeah, I've looked at some of the major competitors.
And it almost looks like there's this threshold below $50 in packages, which tells me that they obviously are smaller sizes. Would you agree?
Yes.
So the tube that you put out is a genuine, this is going to last a lot longer than what most people think. Would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what my immediate thought. But the question is, how do we add value when we do that? So we got to know what our margins are. What is the value offered? So when you look at that there, the difference I noticed just visually, your package size was a lot larger.
Yes.
Okay, and so what was the profit on the transaction? Right, and really it's very hard to tell. And will the transaction cycle repeat? Those are the questions I ask. Does that make sense to both of you guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Any comments, any questions?
Probably only that I don't know what the profit is on the transaction. I haven't really got my figures down.
Yeah, and the problem that you've got is you've got to look at it at a macro view before you can reduce it to the micro view. Right, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. But in real terms, all you can do is know you've made a margin.
Yep.
And we need to make sure the margin is correct so it will lead to the profit. And I'll explain that in a moment, and you'll understand why I ask you what your largest trading day was, because that goes to capability. I've got the numbers, so don't worry too much about that. But that goes to your capability to generate a profit, right? If you'd never had a day like you've had, then it's hard to work out how you would generate profit. But based on your day, it won't be hard to generate profit. What's hard is getting that day over and over again. Because from what I could see, that's a highly profitable day. And I'll bet you were smiling that day. You might have been tired, but I bet you were smiling.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and what did you sell the most on that day? Was it service or product?
It would have been a combination of both on that day, with also gift certificates because it was Christmas. So probably the 2 or 3 days leading up to Christmas is a mixture of both.
Okay.
do a few gift packs at Christmas, and they are smaller products, and they're probably around the $100 price point.
Ah, good. So it was retailing then.
Yeah, retailing and services, I'd say.
Yeah, it was a lot more of the retailing of and people feeling good about what they could give. So that tells you something about when people will spend.
Yeah.
And what they will spend. So that's quite good. So we're always looking at that feedback. And in reality, we're looking at the people that spent that money and do they keep coming back to spend the money. All right. Yep. Same thing with you, Gerry. Iconic Concreting. Yep. The thing that gets me with that is that concrete is not a disposable item.
That's right. Yeah.
But the question is, how many times would a customer repeat in a given time frame on concrete?
Look, usually with repeat customers is usually our builders. So I've been with one builder probably 3 years or something, and we might do 5, 6 big jobs a year for him. In excess of 30,000 each job. That's probably my only repeat customers. However, I do have the occasional residential customer, like your mum and dad's, that want like a garden shed or a extension to a driveway. We have been called back on various occasions. They might get a driveway in for starters. When 6 months or 12 months down the track, they might say, righto, we can afford to put a shed in the backyard, so we'll go back and do a shed for them in the backyard. So
you build the shed or just the pad for the shed?
Just the concrete for the shed. Yeah. Just the concrete for the shed. They might say, oh, look, come back, we might want a water tank slab put in. So we do get repeat clients, but it's not as often as I suppose as Meghan's business.
Yeah, well, if it is, you got a Voltaire of a business, because her repeatability is going to be anywhere from a week to 6 weeks, is my guess.
Yeah, that's right. But look, we do have it, and that's just, I try and maintain that there's a few builders that I do work for currently, and they're good sized jobs. They're commercial projects, which usually for us there's some good money and good long term for not just myself, but to keep my 4 guys busy every day, because I'm starting to get a pretty good team around myself now, and I just want to have constant work, because if I don't have the work, they tend to look elsewhere, and they want stability as well. So that's what I'm trying to focus on this year, is trying to keep my guys and maintain some good relationships, I suppose, with some of these builders.
And you want to be, and it wants to be stable.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. I'm just after that stability, because once I set up my systems, I do want to step back from the business. Not a lot, but I'd like to do, work Monday to Thursday and have the Friday off. If I, that's my goal anyway.
Well, why wouldn't you do that anyway?
I do that now. However, I'm still don't have my systems in place, so I'm sort of at work a fair bit just to put the fires out, and then I come home. Like, I come home during the day all the time. Once I sort of get the boys going in the morning, get to work at around about 6:30. Get the boys going, tell them what we need to do for the day, and then if I've got to go do some quotes, or if I've got to come home and pay some bills, or come home and see Byron and have some breakfast, then I'll exactly. Then I'll shoot back to work a little bit later, after 10:30, after smoko time usually, and just see how the boys are travelling, and then make sure they're not sitting on their ass doing nothing. And if they are, then I'll send them to another job, just to see the day out. But I just want to be able to, because I'm in my 40s now, spend a bit more time with my family. And I think we touched on it last week that, some things are more important than others, and money's obviously an important thing, but spending time with my son and my partner is very important to me anyway. So.
Okay, really good. Okay, so now I'm going to start to go into more detail.
Yep.
Okay. So when you're looking at a selling process, it really is about contact, follow up, follow through, and repeating the process. creating both feed forward and feedback. And so if you understand what I'm saying by that, is you're constantly looking at the first step in any business is feeding something forward,
Yep.
right? And then there is always, 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 whether you like it or not, there's always feedback. Feed forward is a choice. Feedback is not. Do you understand my point?
Yep.
So when you're feeding forward, what are you doing?
Providing a service.
Yeah, when you say you're providing a service, but I want to go even more macro than that. When you're feeding forward, you're going out.
Yeah. Yep.
You're going out to the market. And feeding back, the market's coming into you.
Yep.
So whatever you're feeding forward is in direct correlation to what's fed back.
Yep.
Do you understand my point? And so when you're talking about feedback loops, you've got to see them as a loop. This is a loop. I put something out, something comes back. So, you know, when they say test the market, that's feeding forward. The feedback is the response you get. And so it's really very important to understand, and people don't get this. When you take a risk, the risk is feeding forward, right? All of a sudden, you get feedback against your risk. That's telling you you've got to do your risk. So whenever you take a risk, what's the first thing you have to do when you take a risk?
Mitigate the risk.
Mitigate. You've got to mitigate a risk. So when you're feeding forward this idea that, okay, I'm going to do this. Now you mitigate the risk. And the mitigating of a risk in a business sense comes in the form of a margin. So that says, okay, money comes back to me. So let me ask you this question. Haven Beauty Bar. Now, is that your name or did you buy that name?
No, I created that name.
And what does it mean?
When I created it, it was to create like a haven, like kind of like a sanctuary that was a safe place for women to go. And then I added the beauty bar because I wanted something like a little bit funkier and a little bit different than just calling it a salon or a beauty salon.
Okay, so why don't you just call it Haven Beauty Sanctuary?
Because I thought at the time it was probably a little bit more too day spa-y.
Okay.
And I just wanted to differentiate and not be a day spa.
So what does bar mean?
It's kind of more like I thought at the time it was kind of more like a get in quick kind of service area where you go in. I kind of took it from the grooming bars in the States.
Okay. So the first thing that comes to my mind is come in and have a quick drink.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I want some JD and a few beers, a few shots. We're on.
But that's okay. You can have a tagline: "Drink the lotion of life."
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't have. I get the bar as a connotation of speed, but a Haven Beauty Sanctuary probably says it more to the point. Because I'm with you. I tried to think of salon or go past salon, go past all of the other thoughts, but I couldn't really think of anything beyond that. So is it a salon? Is it, what is it? But if it's going to be a haven, then does sanctuary say it?
kind of felt like, because I did think of sanctuary when I originally changed, but I kind of felt like it was too much, like the word was too long and it was too much associated with more spa and like come in for like hour, like, you know, like long treatments.
Yeah, and so you're not into long treatments.
No, we're more, our treatments are more like the longest treatments that we normally do are the hour facials.
Yeah. The reason why I ask you that is because when we're looking at this, it's pretty easy. Contact, follow up, follow through, repeat the process. But the interactions must have urgency, focus, clear intention, and desired outcomes. And so when you start to look at this, you have business cycles and marketing campaigns. But marketing is only, and marketing and advertising is only as good as the branding.
Yeah.
If your brand's not strong, then you've got a real issue. Now, I'm going to be direct because I see no other point.
Yeah, 100%.
The salon next door is better branded than you are. The business right next door to yours
Yep.
is better branded.
Okay.
Why?
What are they called?
Clips hair design.
Yeah, I understand that, but why? But when you look at it, when you walk past your business and their business, I thought you were the same business.
Okay.
And when I looked at it, and I'm really, because you've got to get, who's your competition?
The competition in the area, there's a few smaller salons, but there's a few major chain salons.
Okay, who's your competition?
Other beauty salons.
Anything to do with beauty is your competition.
Yep.
Now, when you're looking at that, it doesn't matter whether it's hair, it's nails, because there's only so much disposable income in your area. And you've got to attract all of that income, right?
Yes.
Or your share of that income. So when I'm looking at this thing, and I'm making an observation, not a criticism.
Yeah.
You understand my point? I think what you do in the front of your thing is great. But when I compare them to each other and say who's louder and who's feeding more forward, right? The place next door is louder than you are.
Is it, when you say like, is it their signage, Kelly? Like, I'm just trying to understand. Is it that stands?
Yeah, it's just when I want you to stand up front and have a look and be analytical, right? I want you to see their sign and I want you to see your sign. Their sign pops.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about because it reminds me. Every time I see it, I think of like Jack the Ripper. It's bright red.
You know, but it pops.
Yeah.
And maybe yours is not supposed to pop. I get that. But that is the character of the brand.
Yeah.
And when we look at this thing, you have to be very, very careful of the statement that you make with your branding. Now we can market and we can advertise way better. I think that you're going to have to do a little bit better on the 3 words that you have.
Okay.
I don't know what they are. I'm not in that business. I'm just giving you my gut feeling on it.
Yeah.
If we're going to go forward, we have to go forward with a view to really looking at what it is that we're trying to say to the customer. You also have to understand the demographic.
Yes.
What's the demographic of the people you're looking for?
Probably the ages of 30 to say 45, 48.
Okay. You see, next door, that's not the impression I got, that they were looking for that age group. They seem to be looking for a younger age group, and I might be incorrect on that. More, because it just popped.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. Would their clientele be the same as your clientele?
Their clientele is normally a little bit older.
Older?
Yeah, they get a lot of older people.
Wow. Wannabes.
But they have a lot of older staff in there. But the staff are older, they're not young.
Who owns it?
A lady owns it that she lives in Dubai somewhere, and she comes back a few times a year.
Oh, well, that explains an awful lot. Well, no, it explains the frontage of it. Because Dubai is very nouveau. You understand my point?
Yeah.
It's all out there. So that explains that side of it. From my perspective, what we have to do is we have to build a brand and an imaging that we can market and advertise around.
Yeah.
We have to understand our demographic from the point of view of age and income. Mm-hmm. Because that now sets your pricing and the ability to pay. Yeah. And so as we do that, and then distance of traveling, how far will they really travel? The ones that are traveling now, I think we can safely say they're there because of relationship.
Yes.
Right? And I don't think it's a relationship to the product. I think that's pretty conclusive. Yeah. There's 25 resellers of that. They're coming to you by choice. Right? Anyone could know what I know right now, and I found that out in seconds.
Yeah.
So when I look at it from that perspective, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, what's going to attract them to me? What value am I going to put out? How am I going to measure that value? Gerry, is this making sense to you?
Yeah, 100%.
You see, I actually think the idea of iconic concrete is very good, but it doesn't sound like it's one for the builders.
Yeah.
You understand why?
No, not really.
Okay. My next door neighbor is building a pad.
Yep.
You know what he's building the pad for?
A shed.
Park his trailer on.
Okay.
So in the front yard, he's been used to parking his trailer just on the grass.
Yep.
The guy is spending. He's taken out trees. He's got in diggers. He's got in all kinds of things. They're just putting in steel formwork. They're doing all of that because in his lifestyle, he wants to be traveling, and he wants to come in and out with his trailer. He's going to be one of these guys that travels Australia with his trailer.
Yep.
Okay, so if I look at that, that seems to be a demographic for iconic concrete. Mm-hmm. You understand my point? See, right there at that moment, it's like, what's more iconic than people 50 and 60 years old traveling Australia with a trailer?
Yeah, the grey nomads, then, aren't
the
they?
grey nomads.
Yeah.
You understand my point?
Yep.
And I think it's so different. How many things have you ever heard about iconic concrete?
No.
It's not a word you use with concrete.
No.
And concrete's coming back in with polished floors and all the rest of it, right?
Yes.
Yep. The old becoming the new. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I just want to make sure I'm relating to both of you. Are you okay with that, Meghan?
Yeah.
Because the concept is exactly the same. And what I'm dealing with is in the concepts early. How do we contact someone? How do we follow up with them? How do we follow through with them? How does the process repeat with the least amount of effort? What you've got to see is when somebody leaves the specialty of the touch and the facial and that for 1 hour, then you leave them with, okay, now that you've started this process, we've got to keep the beauty happening at home. You've got to take this home with you. So now we go into the upsell, right? Yeah. But I don't think your packaging allows for that right now.
Yeah, I agree.
So we have to look at the packaging of it. And then we have to look at the time between. Yes. So let's schedule you for 4 weeks' time. But in the meantime, here's a package that you can apply to yourself, and you can be in the beauty bar for whatever. You know what? You understand my point? And that's packaging at that moment. And so, and that also becomes part of our advertising and the way that we get people coming back to us, the repeating process. Because the contact, if somebody's coming into your salon on a regular basis, you don't have to contact them. Yeah. You only contact them when they're not coming. Does that make sense to you? Only when they're not coming. If they miss, I can tell you, we are such creatures of habit. If they miss 1 or 2 appointments, you got a problem. Now, is the problem that they're having cash flow issues, or is it a problem they're having personality issues or product issues? But you've got to know. You understand? So I'm gonna suggest to you that as you package this thing, you've got to start to think about, what do you want to call your packages? And I don't think Dermalogical or Dermalogica or whatever the hell their name is a good packaging proposition. Yeah. Now, I looked at all the reviews on it, and it connotates health. It doesn't connotate beauty. Right? And in the reviews, they were starting to talk about how they portray the idea that they're scientifically formulated and they're going to affect your skin, not from the beauty point of view, but from the dermalogical point of view. You understand my point? I don't think it fits with you. I don't think that brand necessarily fits as strong as something else. And I don't know what the something else is right now, but I don't think that you're as much about health as you are about the feeling that someone feels healthy. You understand the differentiation I'm making?
I think so, yeah.
So what do you think I'm making?
That I'm just trying to think of the words. That the business is more about how you feel when you're in and when you leave, as opposed to looking at.
Yeah, you're not dealing with cold sores. You're not dealing with skin. You're feeling with people that are feeling good and are going to feel better. Yeah. Right, and it's a feeling versus a health issue. That doesn't mean to say it can't be healthy. I'm just saying that that's not really what your branding's about, as I see it. Yeah. And I think we discussed that last time, yeah? Yeah. And so the more we're precise about the language that we're using, the easier it is for people to make decisions about using us. It differentiates us. And so when we look at that, I don't think that with 25 salons or resellers in your area, I don't think that that's a good enough differentiation right now. Yeah. I think we've got to look at how do we differentiate in a different way. I think you can put some of their products in your package, in your bundle, but I don't know that I want them to be the flagship, or I'd want them to be the flagship. Yeah. Right? It's more about feeling good here. And do you want to be an exclusive bar, or do you want to be something where people are really coming, and you want to be mass appeal or exclusive appeal?
I think probably more mass, I'd say.
Okay, so if you're going to mass, then pricing becomes far more important than exclusive, right? We could take those $84 bottles and make them $110 if they're exclusive, because our languaging and our marketing and our branding would be around that. But I do think you're more mass appeal, because if we went exclusive, you'd have to change your rooms a little bit. They're more a mass appeal room, in my opinion. I don't know. What do you think, Gerry?
Yeah, I agree totally. Because there's a bar or a beauty salon in the valley that actually do. They've got like an actual bar. You can actually have wine, and people will bloody pamper you. And so I think that's more exclusive in my eyes. I think they've got like music and like DJs in there and stuff like that. So I see that salon as more of a exclusive type business. But definitely, I think if we chase the mass, I think we'll be a bit better off. Sure.
I would like a bar eventually.
See, it keeps coming back to bar. So I think next time we get in there, I'm going to take a bottle of tequila. We're going to do shots. We're going to get the JD out. Then I'm going to show, well, that's the bar that a concrete would be looking to. Because if my concrete said, all right, let's go to the bar, they ain't going to get some skin treatment. They're going for shots.
Yeah, but once again, the question is, can we attract your concreters? Because those are the guys that should be getting facials.
Yeah. If you can get them out of the bar, yeah.
No, but seriously,
yeah.
If you look at this, people that work with cement are the people that should get some oil for their skin.
Yeah, exactly.
So, cement dries out your skin.
It does, absolutely. It's all the lime and that sort of, you get it in your hands and it dries all your skin out. Yeah, it's terrible stuff.
See, now we got a niche.
Yeah, see.
We did start to get quite a few guys coming in from the mines. So we had a few men in the last few months that have started to come in.
Yeah, and again, now we're talking about branding and positioning.
Yeah.
Because your growth market is probably could be men.
Yeah, I think Meghan used my face as a marketing campaign once until I found out. I said, but don't use me. I said, I'll start asking for royalties to put my face on your marketing campaign.
But seriously, when you're looking at it, the market is not just about women today. The market, I mean, I'll tell you, I've had several facials.
Yeah. And
I can tell you that it's just about the best massage that I get. And I kind of go with Anna, and I feel a bit embarrassed just to go and say, can I have a facial?
Yeah.
But again, that's why bar could work for you if it becomes men and women.
Yep. Yep.
And our marketing program can go around there. But then again, you've got to have different products for that. But I think that it lends itself to that market.
Yeah.
But again, it's still coming down to, I guess you're getting that I'm not really sold on Haven Beauty Bar.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
All right, and it's if I think we're going to build something that's divisional, and you understand what I mean by divisional, don't you?
That I can have more than one.
Multi-location, yes. Yeah. You've got to, if you're going to invest now, you've got to invest. If you're going to put the time in now, don't think about the salon you have. Think about the salon you're going to have.
Yep.
Yep.
Right. And so one of my things is that I really encourage you to look at I think your colors have got to be looked at as well.
Yep.
And have you ever studied the meaning of colors?
I did have a look at some of them when I was looking at that logo. Originally, I was going to go a lot brighter, but I don't know, I stayed with the lighter colors. I just thought it was a little bit more, I don't know.
But Megan, it's not a criticism, it's an observation.
No, that's fine.
And what I'm saying to you is that one of the things that you can do, one of the exercises you can do is Google the meaning of color.
Yeah.
And be more informed about colors. And as you become more informed about colors, it's going to really encourage you to think about where we're going to be. The first 3 months of what I do is I establish a net present position. And then we build and we build and we build. But you can't throw away the old and say, oh, I'll just get rid of that today. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, there's a possibility that we could change the brand, we could change the colors, we could change that. If you're going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah.
Kelly, could you just excuse me for a second? My auto sparky's just asked for the keys.
Yeah, go for it.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Kelly, because I just changed around my reception area in the last few months, and put that new desk in. And a lot of people that walk past have come in and said, "Oh, we didn't know you were here," because I kind of created a more brighter space.
Yeah.
So it's interesting from that perspective to kind of go, like, people didn't even notice that we were there and they walk past there every day.
Yeah, and that's the point I'm making to you. I would have walked into the beauty salon next door.
Yeah.
And except for Anna knew exactly where to go.
Yeah.
But when you step inside, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's that first step.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll wait till Gerry gets back, and I'll go into the numbers then.
Okay.
But really, what I think is very, very, very important in business, we're always looking at value.
Yeah.
And you've got to look at the resistance that are creating, and you've got to get people to stop and really understand what you're about. So if you look at the sensual part, a haven is about sensuality. You understand my point? It's very sensual. So we're feeling an awful lot. And so at that moment, we've got to look at the aromas, we got to look at the visuals, and we got to see what people hear, or hear what people hear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And when you're looking at, as you walk into that shopping center, in my mind, it may not be where you'll end up in a second location and something like that. I doubt whether you would.
Yeah, I agree.
We wouldn't.
All right, but anyway, that's it. So now what I want to do is, now that I've really gone into the branding side of it, I want to go into just pure numbers. Are you guys both okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So this is as my understanding, and it's very simple. I don't see a lot of point in putting in a bunch of numbers right now, because what you've done to get to where you are today, and you've done a great job. So the first thing you want to say, you don't ever want anyone to tell you that you didn't do a great job. You've done a great job. All right? And that's just based on numbers. So you can see 2014, you had a total income of $82,000, $82,639, right? You had a cost of goods about $21,000, or about 13%, which is not so bad. And then you've got your total expenses at 159. Now, people are going to cringe like hell when they see that, right? Because they're going to think, how could you possibly be in business and be half smart? Well, the truth of it is they don't understand business. You know, remember I said you've got to take the risk out and then you've got to mitigate.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that you mitigate is your total income the next year. Right? So you really had this $61,000 extra cash flow the following year. And when you look at your expenses went to 184. You know, your total expenses of 184, but your cost of goods didn't go up that much. So can you see that? Your cost of goods against where you're at is actually quite good. But your non-variable costs stayed the same or increased. You understand my point? So at that moment, it tells me that you're aware that you can't keep losing the amount of money you did in the first year, but you mitigated it by increasing your sales and watching certain things. You can see that. Now, the next year at 216, you increased your sales again, right? But look at your cost of goods. And you've got a leveling off of your total expenses. You see that?
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
That I was able to decrease the amount of my cost of goods and increase the income into the salon again.
Well, it shows me awareness for a start.
Okay.
Right? It's like it's not as if you're not aware. And it also shows me that you're making decisions based on how to improve that, right? And when you look at the 25,000 as cost of goods, that tells me you don't really sell very much over the counter.
That's right.
Right? That tells me that, you know, a good percentage of that is self-consumption.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what it says to me. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it says. And it sounds like it's reasonably stable, and it looks like, okay, I don't know that it's going to matter that much what you use in your service side of your salon.
Yeah.
I really don't know. And we both know that you could probably have that by changing your product or whatever, but I don't know that that's going to be the lifesaver anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. When I look at this thing, I look at it and say, okay, going into this year, I want to see my expenses, not the year, but from this moment. I want to peg my expenses at 209,000 or at about 19,000 a month. Right? And I want my total sales to be about 321. And how do I get to that number of 321?
You break it down into achievable goals each week.
I've made achievable goals, but how did I pick the number 321?
I'm not sure.
Gerry, how did I pick the number 321? It's a pretty precise number, isn't it?
321, is that to do with the amount of days in a year? Well, there's 365 days in a year, minus weekends or closed days. I know there was a magic number we used last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the 168. That's all the time I got, but I'll get there in a minute.
Yeah.
Look, I want you to write this down and really understand it. that what I did was, I don't think you can reduce your costs that much. I really don't. So what I did is I said, there's probably a good chance that you're going to have an incremental increase on your expenses. And I put those up a number, and I'll look at my spreadsheet later and I'll tell you what that exact number is. But I actually said, I don't think you can run your business at a lower expense. So I can't lower my expenses to think that I'm going to do better. I just don't know that you're going to do that. And that's where a lot of businesses get to, where they say, oh, lower your expenses. That's what an accountant would say.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know that you can do that. I think that they're reasonably well managed. And I think they've got to go up just a little bit, because you said you wanted to go from, you know, the women that you work, you wanted to give them a little bit more security by being full-time rather than part-time and all the rest of it, right? Which says you're going to do that. My other thought is that your cost of goods, really, if we're going to sell more, it's going to increase.
Yes.
And I think 209 is even low, but I don't want to go much beyond that, because at this moment, we're changing the face of the business. So I don't think I can lower the expenses. I just don't think I can do that. I think I've got to, as opposed to lowering them, I've got to look at increasing. They've got to get greater than they were. Does that make sense to you?
Yep.
Yep.
But I also got to manage them. I've got to know what they are. I can't let them leak out. So if you look at this thing, I'm saying, the reason why I'm giving you those measuring points is I want to put measuring points in the business that say that as my expenses increase, what also has to increase?
Oh, yes, sir.
Sales.
Sales have got to be greater. And the formula that I use is, I look at the 209. What happened there? Okay. I'll look at the 209, and then I divide it by 0.6. Why do I divide it by 0.6?
How many days in a week that we're open for?
No, when you're looking at this, you're wanting the 0.6 immediately will take it. So 0.6 to 209, and it might be 6.5. Normally it's 0.6 that I do, and I'll have to confirm it with the spreadsheet, but I divide it to bring it back to the whole. So by dividing it by 0.6, and what I'm really wanting to do is, I've got to run the whole business, all my expenses, and I'm not certain of my fact there, so let me be absolutely certain by checking it out. I want to know that your business is making a profit.
Yeah.
And when I make that profit, what I'm wanting to do is, I'm wanting to say that all my expenses have got to be covered in 209, and my margin becomes 112,000. That's not my profit, that's my margin. And my margin has got to allow for money left over, and the money left over has got to go into different baskets. It's got to go 10% into reinvesting. So I use the number 0.6, and I'll get more exacting for our next, when we do it, when we start to set budgets and that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do it because what I want is, I want money left over. I want money left over, 10% I want left over to save. 10% left over to tithe. And 10% left over to invest or reinvest. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Kelly, what's the meaning of tithe?
Give away.
Okay. Why would you give 10% away? What do you mean by that?
You do anyway. You give stuff away anyway.
Yep.
Okay, so in there you might and tithing is like a church thing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I'm not into church things. I'm into saying I've got to give something away. How do I give it away? I've got to allow for the giveaway. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not about, oh, give me 10% or give. I'm saying that 10% is a giveaway. What do you give it to? Right? You've got to save money. You've got to put money away to grow, and you've got to put money away to invest.
Yep.
And if you do that, there's always something left over. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's not just about making a profit. It's about being very clear about what you're doing with the profit you're making.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about making as much as I want to make as much as I can. I want to program what you make. And then I want to know what I'm going to do with it. You've got to get that money expands or contracts depending on how you deploy it. Money is a currency. It moves. So do you think you should label its movement? Do you understand my point, Megan?
I think so.
All I'm saying to you is your mind is not going to, a lot of times people say, if I cover my expenses, I'm okay. That's going backwards. You will always lose going backwards in that sense. You've got to have something left over. Well, how do you get it to be left over? How do you do your pricing? How do you make your profits? How do you really get it to the moment where you've got something that you can move from? Is this making sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Same thing applies to you, Gerry.
Yep.
You've got to get your expense so that you've got money left over. What's it left over for? To save, to invest, to tithe.
Yep.
Right? An expense. Whatever you pay yourself, your drawing's an expense. It's not money left over. You understand what I'm saying, Megan?
Yep.
So you put in your energy into something, then that's an expense, and you've got to get paid something in money. That's not a business sense. Your leftover in a business sense is you've got to save something, you've got to invest something, and maybe you want to give away something.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be these percentages, but that's how I work it out. So if you have a look at the numbers, the 321, 79, 10 is based on having money left over. And now you've got this money left over. The expense has got to even include your drawings, Megan. You understand my point now?
Yeah.
The business has got to be separate from the person.
Yes.
And so when you separate it out, the business has got to have savings, it's got to have investments, it's got to be able to do those sort of things.
Yeah.
As a business, not as an individual. I can see your mind's rattling now, Megan.
Yeah.
So now we put in these measuring points. We say that our expenses cannot exceed 19,000 against 29,000 in sales. Now, if we see the expenses creeping outwards, what must we see the sales be doing?
Increasing.
Increasing. If the sales are not increasing, guess what about the expenses?
They're too high. They'll be too high.
We've got to start saying, hang on a second, why did this happen? That's managing the business. And so Our relationship is 19 to 29 on a monthly basis.
Yep.
The more precise measurement is on a weekly basis, 4,000 to 6,000.
Yep.
Then on a daily basis, 736 to 1,113. You understand my point now? So now when we're measuring at the end of the day, we can go plus or minus.
Yeah.
So the reason why I asked you, I absolutely asked you, what was the biggest day you had? And I'm excited because it's $3,000,
Yes.
right? Which means in one day, we can nearly do as much as we need to do in the total week, which means that with a little bit of focus and a little bit of discipline, we'll blow these numbers to pieces. That's the numbers game. Do you understand my point? So in my mind, I already load my mind to say, where am I going to make 1,133.65 in sales per day? Right? Megan, you said you were a Nick's McDonald person, right? Were you into the management?
No. No. Not management.
But you were team leaders and things like that?
Yeah, team leader.
Yeah. And do they work out the number of people that they're going to have against the sales made?
Yes.
Yes. And they're pretty diligent, aren't they? Like by the hour, every couple hours, right?
Yeah.
Do they send people home when the numbers don't work?
Yes.
I'm not asking you to do that, but I'm asking you to be aware of that.
Yep.
Because at the moment, if you're going to build this environment or this haven, Haven's his safe place.
Yeah.
Right? So when you say, I've got this haven, haven starts internally, not externally.
Yep.
People have got to feel safe.
Yes.
And so what you've got to look at is using the word safe and all of that, you've got to make sure every part of every aspect of your business carries that in its ethos. You understand my point?
Yes.
Yep.
So what's my point?
Making sure that the environment's safe, especially for the staff, the clientele.
So what do they exude? What do they exude when they have safety?
Confidence.
Confidence. And the whole thing starts to spiral. It's what's left over. It's not just profit left over. Now, I'm going to see if I can do this. I don't know whether I can do this or not. I might have to stop sharing my screen, but I'll do that in a moment. And I'll leave this session with the final thing to think about. I'll do that in the end. Okay, because I want to show you from a selling perspective. It's not important to know the selling techniques anymore. You have to know why people buy. Why are they going to buy from you? In a world where information is so fast and selling techniques are so slow, question is, why do people buy from you? What are they buying? And what I really want to get across to you is this idea, and I'm going to have to take those off, this idea that we've got to start to set up ways and agreements about what we're going to do in terms of making commitments to things. So the first commitment I want you to make is I want you to be aware that we're looking for, first of all, I want to blow the 321 to pieces inside a year. I want to make more sales than that inside a year. That's going to be my target. Are you willing to take on board that target?
Yes.
Yeah, well, You're going to have to you're going to have to agree to it. I know we're going to have to agree to hold our expenses around 209, unless as we measure, we can see one's moving, we can then move the other. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
So we'll start monitoring that from next week. I want to know what the total sales are, not from anything other than an analytical point of view. How did we get to that sale? How are we going to improve that sale?
Yep.
What did we sell? What can we sell more of? Does that make sense to you? So I want you to take, and Gerry, by the way, you're going to have to do the same thing. So you're going to need to be thinking about it.
Yep, I'm there. I'm on 100%.
All right? Yep. And so it now becomes a game in our mind. Does that make sense? And so what I want you to commit to, Meghan, is sales of 1,133.65 on a daily basis. But we both know that you're going to have big days and smaller days. But by the end of the week, we want 6,000, nearly 7,000 in sales. And I don't care if it's 1,000 right now, although it's not. We'll work our way to where we want it to go by these meetings. Because I'll hold you accountable. And I'm asking you, would you agree for me to hold you accountable to these numbers?
Yes.
And then just weekly, you're going to have to report to me. Before the meeting, you're going to have to tell me what your expenses were, and what your total sales were. That's it, and then we'll break them down. Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, so that sounds really good to me. And if I next week, Gerry, I'm going to want you to have a certain level of commitment as well.
Sure.
If I'm going to be absolutely effective to you, I've got to be able to hold you accountable to various things.
Yeah.
This is not a feel-good session. This is let's get this thing going thing. Are you guys both okay with that?
Yeah, we're down to grind. We like the grind.
Okay, so good. So I've got, Meghan, I got your commitment on these numbers, and we'll go over that, and during the week we'll look at it. Gerry, you need to develop, if you want to give me the same numbers that Meghan gave me, I'll show you how to do it. By the sound of it, we'll get big movement in yours quickly.
Yeah, yep.
And as odd as it sounds, I really do think your iconic concrete is a smart branding. Now we have to make it be a smart business.
Yes. Yeah, I think we've had some pretty short-term success over the short period we've been going. I just don't know which direction I'm going in, and hopefully we'll get there.
Well, mate, let me tell you, you're going where customers deal with you, not with the builders.
Yeah.
That's ultimately you're going one step into the market.
Yep.
Meghan's already there.
Yeah.
Right? She's having to deal with the market. You're dealing with builders and so on, and they have their own market. You're creating a market now.
Yeah.
Well, I think your timing's pretty good too. People like to do those small jobs around the place, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, now I'm going to show you something else. I have one more slide for you. I don't know how well you can see it.
Yep, yeah, that's all good.
I want you to understand this, that every one of us is designed in the same way. We've got eyes, ears, nose, and we got this brain, and we have this mind. Consciously, we're only able to hold 7 different conscious thoughts at any given time, plus or minus 2. And so what I want you to get is when you're working with things, that's why focus is so important, because it brings your consciousness to the front of mind. What are we conscious? The reason why I wanted to get numbers, I wanted you to be conscious of those numbers. I don't want you to hang on to them all day. I just want you to be conscious of them, because are there 1,000 different things you could deal with today?
Yep.
Well, I'm worried about my dogs. I'm worried about my cats. I've got an electrician outside. That's all taking up conscious space. And it's really not, it really is not good for you when you're running a business in that sense. You've got to have a level of focus. And in my mind, it's got to be disciplined, precise, concise, and communicated. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So have I been disciplined, and have I been precise with the numbers I want?
Yes.
Have I been concise?
Yes, very.
And have I been communicating them?
Yes.
Yep.
Let me say to you now, the last part of this that I'm really going to want to get into, the volume of contacts made are direct correlation to sales and income. The number of contacts you make are direct correlation to sales and income. No contact, no outward. Now, in the case your brand can be making a lot of contacts without you there through websites, Facebooks, social media. You can leverage it to an extent that we couldn't even imagine years ago. Right? Now we have to get really smart about it. And in my view, today is all about cooperation, collaboration, distributed. That means going away from me, leaders and managers. You got to distribute what you have and what you know. So it's like broadcasting. Meghan, the front of your shop has got to broadcast. Gerry, your branding has got to broadcast, and it's got to broadcast the message you want to send. Precise, concise communication. You understand my point? And as we do that, we've got to be totally conscious that we're doing it. What happens in most cases is we're not conscious. And that's what drives us. So when you start to look at it, the reason why you're leaders and managers is because of your consciousness. You're aware of what's going on, and you take action on what you're aware of. Does that make sense to both of you?
Yes.
And so all I really want to do is make sure that you're conscious and you know the decisions you're making. Meghan, I want to say, when I look at your numbers, I've looked at thousands of businesses, and I can tell you that you're right on task. What I can also tell you, you're at a make or break in what you're doing. Either you now go holus bolus and go right into it and really start to apply your talents and everything else and say, this is what we're going to get done, then you will find you will explode into something else. But if you don't, you'll struggle for a long, long time.
Yeah.
That's what I see in your numbers.
Yes.
And you know, no, you don't create numbers like that and stay in business as long. You're now considered to be like 1 in 10 or 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 in your capability of doing what you've done. What I want you to be is 1 in a million, which takes it to that next level. You understand my point? Now I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'm going to see if I can get that other thing that I wanted to show you. Is this making sense, by the way?
Yeah.
Yes.
And are you learning something?
Yes.
Okay, so now let me go back there. And let me go here. Cancel, let me go there. Okay, I'm back on screen. I'm going to show you something that I think is really very important to understand. Can you see what I've got up on my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
10 reasons why people buy or customers buy. And you can see I've got it in Spanish as well because I was working with the Mexicans. The first thing that people buy is your energy. And both of you have got very good energy, very good energy. They buy success. So they want to feel like they're in a place where people are successful. They buy confidence, they buy competence, and they buy excellence, right? They want to be challenged. So when you look at it, and again, my excellence has come down a bit from my spelling of challenge, but there you go.
I was ready to pull you up on that one, Kelly, but you're all over.
I'm aware of it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Gerry. I never gave you the opportunity to correct me on that. But again, the next thing you have to have is fun.
Yep.
Right? And you've got to be able to laugh about it. People are going to be able to trust you, and you have to have gratitude. You have to know how to say thank you to the people that buy from you.
Yes.
And you must have clarity and honesty. Is that making sense to both of you guys?
Yes.
Yep.
It's not about, I can give you 10 steps to a sale like most salespeople can. I really want to know, why do my customers buy from me? What will make them come back? And I am absolutely certain, especially in your business, Meghan, it's going to be confidence, competence. Are they confident when they're around people? Are they competent? You understand my point? And that's what creates people to buy. It's not about $84 for the tube. That's easy. To sell that tube's quite easy. But it's the confidence and the competence to know how to sell it. You understand? That's where the value's added. These add value. And you got to challenge people. It's like a lot of times I hear people say, oh, you can't say that. Or did he just say that? Well, in most cases with me, it's yes, I did say that. And yes, he did say that. Because I want to be direct. Right? But I want to do it with an energy that cares. I don't just want to be this guy that says, oh, give me this money. I want you to get something, and I want you to be able to apply that. Now, when you're going into this, it's really very important to me that you know why your customers buy from you. So, and you see something, Meghan, as simple as changing the front of it, people say, oh, I didn't notice that before. Now you're getting my point? That's attracting people to buy. I don't want to be a sales guy. I want to be a guy that gives a person a reason to buy from me. That's value. Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay, comments or questions before we start to end our call? That was quick, wasn't it?
It was very quick.
Hang on 1 second. Just let me go for a second. Okay, my apologies. Somebody just came into my house and I thought I better know who it was.
Gerry.
It's all good. It was Anna, my wife. Well, Anna, you know. She's just come back from somewhere. I was expecting my daughter-in-law with Sebastian. So, do you have any questions for me, Meghan?
Kelly, I do have a few questions. I think because it's because at the moment I'm doing a lot of things for Gerry as well with his business until we get things sorted out. I guess I'm interested to know your opinion on. We don't have any software that we're currently doing everything from as such. So for all his invoicing and things like that, we're kind of doing it in Excel templates. I'm not sure if I should go ahead and start setting things up for him like Xero and finding a I don't know if you have any recommendations on invoicing and quoting software, or I'm kind of at a loss of what to do in that area.
Well, first of all, it's great that you're in this place right now and you're asking this question, because an Excel spreadsheet won't create an asset.
Yep.
And I don't know that there's softwares, and I don't know which the softwares are for that type of business. If there's specific software for a concrete style business, for quoting and so on. And Does Gerry have, Gerry, do you have a pricing system?
I do. I just
Is it based on a spreadsheet or what's it based on?
it's basically it's this book here, and I just paid $480 for it. It's quite thick, and it's got every trade. It gives you the prices of every capital city in Australia on every trade from formwork, steel fixing, concreting, glazing, chippy work, everything. So that's going to be the new Bible.
We don't, at the moment, Kelly, we don't have a definitive list of everything. We kind of depends on certain builders. There's an idea for certain things, but we don't have a definitive list.
No, they're correct. Yeah, not a definitive list as yet. What I've been sort of doing is pricing it, going and measuring it up, and then manually break it down per square meterage, how much concrete's involved, how much steel, formwork. Then I sort of will know how much labour to put to that job. It's a long process. I just think we just need to simplify it and get some numbers down that we can just extract and throw into a process that's a lot quicker for my quoting.
Are you're both good on Excel?
Megan's pretty good. I'm very amateurish at a beginner, but I can pick things up.
Okay, so Megan, the first thing that I would say as you're looking for an accounting package, because he does need to go to an accounting package. Otherwise, you guys work too hard. Let me look into a couple things from this end. But I think the first thing that you've got to do is set up a pricing structure.
Sure. Yep.
You know, this sort of pricing's not good. Licking your finger and sticking it in the air and saying, I can get that.
Yeah.
You've got to have a pricing structure that knows that you've allowed for most things. Excel's, in my view, is great. We do a lot of tables in and out of Excel going into our accounting package. And we have quotations and stuff like that. And so to me, to create an asset, you've got to really look at the way your invoice goes out, the way your quotes go out, and it's got to look iconic.
Yep.
You understand my point? And I can show you a lot of stuff around that. We built our own ERP. So in our business, we went open source and we built it. Accounting's accounting, but then the pricing and all your templating of what you do is what's really important. So Megan, do you have templates for Gerry's invoices and so on?
I have, yes, I've got basic ones that I've set up. So for quotes and invoices.
Okay, but it still takes you a long time to do some of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still manual.
That's why I thought about setting him up in Xero, because my background's also IT. I used to test software. So I thought about setting him all up in Xero.
What's Xero?
That's like a payroll invoicing quotation system, similar to MYOB.
Or
Okay.
But we're just not 100% sure because it's a different, I'm just not 100% sure.
All right, well, let's think about that. But I think you're absolutely correct. He's as a business, he's got to get on business standing. Right now, he's in the bedroom.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. So that's got to improve. So, and that's easy done. I don't think it's a decision you have to make in the next day or so, but I think it's a decision you need to take very carefully.
Yeah.
And I'm with you, Megan. It's got to be a package. It's got to be something that you can stick it in, but it's also got to be something you can pull from and put into.
Because that's the other thing, I think, Kelly, we don't have all the figures for Gerry's business for the last 2 years, because the figures that I sent you are really, I'm trying to finalize everything to get it to the accountant, because there weren't good records kept.
No.
So that's why I want to implement something so that then we can pull figures, because at the moment it's really hard to even look at, what we're spending in labour and product costs, and we don't have all that.
Yeah, and really, all that tells you is it's a subcontract business. It's not a bona fide business.
Yeah.
And what we're doing is building an asset. We've got an asset relies on it being a business.
Yeah.
And so yes, it has to be a lot more formalized. And I think there's lots of ways of doing that. And it's good you've got a background there because you know the things I'm saying for you right now. It's just got to be importing and exporting from that is very important.
Yeah.
And accessibility to an accountant is important in today's world as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to be, in my mind, you just want to say, okay, here it is. Get what you need to go, give them access for a while, and then take their access away.
Yeah.
And that's accounting today. You don't want to be paperizing everything. You just want to say, go in, have a look, give them access to certain areas and not in others. So.
Yep. Correct.
All right. Any other questions? You said you had a few.
The only other question, I think it's more just I was reintroducing a new menu into the business, but I was just in the process just before I met you to get it all printed, and I was actually getting new signage done for the business, but I'm just going to hold off on that now.
What were you you called it a menu? I missed what you said about what did you name it?
So I was I was just getting some new signage in the salon, and then I was introducing a new menu.
Okay.
So I just designed a whole new menu for the salon around kind of making it more, changing some of the treatments that we do. But I think I'll hold off on that for now.
Look, I don't think you should stop anything. I think that your mind has got to stay moving.
Yep.
Send me all of that stuff. Let's have a look at it and let's see how that we get it branded correctly.
Okay.
I don't think that you should put anything on hold because that says to me you're stopping your motion. Let's stay in motion and let's correct as we run.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. I think I just spoke to Holly about your stuff with the invoice.
The accounting and software and accounting.
And I guess in the list of setting up a pricing structure.
Yeah.
Did you have any?
No, that's pretty much it. That's all I wanted to ask. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Okay, so we'll end our meeting very cleanly. Gerry, how do you feel? And what is the one thing that you take away from this meeting that you will apply this week?
I feel a lot more comfortable with these meetings going forward. I feel at ease a little bit more. I think just getting to spend time with you, Kelly, and Megs, I feel good. Just a bit more at ease, I suppose. Knowing that we're progressing is a good thing for me to feel. What I would learn or take away from this is I'm glad that you've sort of going to hold me responsible for to a few things. It sort of gives me a bit more drive. So yeah, look, I like to be held accountable to things, and I don't think I've been held accountable to somebody for a while. So I encourage a bit of pressure to be put on myself because I sort of get more shit done. Sorry for swearing. Get more stuff done that way. So yeah, holding responsible. I'll take that on board. I like it. Megs, how do you feel, and what do you take away from this?
I feel relieved again today. I think I feel like I have a better kind of vision of where we're heading with the business, both businesses. I feel like it's actually really nice to hear you say to me that with the business figures that in the past I haven't been so far off track, because I've had a lot of negativity around the business, and just because I've worked part-time, full-time, and I've kind of thought I've been doing a lot of things wrong. So that's a nice feeling to know that I haven't completely stuffed it up. There's probably two things that I take from today. From my business, it's having a clearer idea of what figures I should be aiming for and kind of putting that plan into place. And then the second thing I take is from Gerry's side of the business is just starting to set up a pricing structure. I think will help us make things a little bit easier moving forward. So Kelly, how do you feel about today and what do you take away from our session?
Well, what I take away is that we're moving towards better outcomes that we can manage. Business is really about managing. You know, the products and everything else you do is just all what happens inside it. But we've got to manage our businesses. And I don't think people spend enough time on really discussing the management of it and why they're doing it, you know, from a business perspective. And I think that that's really important. And I think we're getting down to that. And I really do think that you guys have got the right energy to be where you're at. And I don't think, from my perspective, Meghan, I really look at it and say, that's how businesses start. Your numbers show very good numbers on how business start, and you can pat yourself on the shoulder. And you know, it really is. A lot of people have to start by working two things. That's what it takes to be a great entrepreneur. This idea that you're just going to buy into something is crazy. You have to be at risk. You get feedback. You correct. You can see you've done that. And so now all we're doing is taking it to a very different focused level and saying, this is what we can do now. We couldn't do that 3 years ago because we didn't know. We know now. Now we can be very conscious and we can make some very clear decisions. Yeah. Okay. Meghan, please send me the stuff so I can have a look at it.
Yes.
And I'll give you feedback on it straight away. Don't stop. Keep moving.
Yep. Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.